I'm Amy Anderson for Option Rally TV. Let's take a look at last week's market action and what to expect this week. Largest Bitcoin exchange files bankruptcy. Markets end the month at a record high, and gold continues to gain on Ukraine worries. Let's take a quick look at what is happening in the global markets now. Wall Street closed out February with a new record for the S&P 500 as bullish sentiment dominates trade despite mediocre economic data and rising tensions over Ukraine. The S&P 500 was the week's star, notching consecutive records Thursday and Friday and finishing up 23.2 points at 1859.45. The Dow Jones rose 218 for the week to 16,321.71, while the Nasdaq tacked on 44.71 to 4308.12. For the month, the Dow jumped 3.97%, its biggest monthly gain since January 2013. The S&P 500 increased 4.31% in February, while the Nasdaq powered up 4.98%. Investor enthusiasm returned in February after the Dow fell 5.3% in January. One of the most anticipated reports came from Target, which in December disclosed that credit card data for some 40 million customers had been stolen by hackers in one of the biggest data breaches in history. Target said fourth quarter earnings fell 45.9% on lower consumer traffic after it disclosed the breach. It also warned 2014 earnings could be hit by costs from the data breach. The big news this week was Mt. Gox, the largest Bitcoin exchange, closing its door and filing for bankruptcy protection on Friday, with debts exceeding $500 million, leaving thousands of Bitcoin investors out of luck. There have been various versions of the problems leading to Mt. Gox's demise, including fraud or problems with the Bitcoin software, but nonetheless, Bitcoin tumbled to record lows on the exchange, which went dark on Tuesday as other exchanges see huge sell-offs of the coins. European markets ended mixed. Asian stocks were also mixed. China's currency was grabbing headlines as it continued its sharp move downwards versus the US dollar. Data over the weekend showed that China's manufacturing moved to an 8-month low, which will stress markets on Monday. In the foreign exchange market, the UK pound fell against the euro after Eurozone inflation beat forecasts, hitting investors who have been betting on a large divergence between British and Eurozone interest rate paths. The euro, which had been down against the pound in early trading, rose as high as 82.68 pence after the data. Eurozone consumer prices rose 0.8% year-on-year this month, the same rate as in January and December, and above forecasts of 0.7%. Against the dollar, the pound extended gains during the day, rising 0.3% to 1.6740, moving it back towards the 4-year high of 1.6823 last week. Sterling has been cheerful since the BOE earlier this month raised its forecast for 2014 economic growth to 3.4% from 2.8% and said market expectations of a rate rise in the second quarter of next year were consistent with keeping inflation close to target. Moving to the commodities market, oil prices pushed higher on Friday, lifted by a weaker dollar. After opening in negative territory, oil prices pushed into the green as the dollar eased against other major currencies. The U.S. Department of Commerce cut its fourth quarter growth estimate for the world's largest crude oil consumer to 2.4% from an initial reading of 3.2%. Gold was little changed on Friday, but was on track for its biggest monthly gain since July after investors and speculators chased prices higher on concerns about the pace of the U.S. economy and unrest in Ukraine. Gold was nearly flat at $1330.86, down from a 4-month high of $1345.35 on Wednesday. This is Amy Anderson from Option Rally signing off. Follow me on Facebook and watch for our new financial terms of the day and our weekly event news. And of course, I'm waiting for your like below if you enjoyed today's update. Have a great week.